So at its core, events are great because they build face-to-face and meaningful interactions in kind of a different environment, an educational environment, to where you can provide value in advance, you can network, you can have a face-to-face meeting or handshake that you're typically not going to get elsewhere. But the important thing is you have to provide value and you have to make it worth people's time in order for that to lead to some sort of call to action on the end, whether it's yes, I want to implement this new program. Yes, I want to hire you as a client, whatever that is. So providing value in advance is key and critical. So now I'd like to talk about what are some of the common areas that I like to organize when looking at an event to assess whether it's going to be successful and some strategies there. So the 5 areas are GPA, goals, processes, and accountability is number 1. Number 2 is touch points. Number 3 is center of influence. Number 4 is the delivery of the presentation, and number 5 is going to be the call to action or letting leads go cold or whatever you want to call it. For the follow-up, it says where do you want people to be after going to your event? What do you want them to do? So I'm going to talk about a couple of these in details. They are in the blog in more detail as well. So GPA, goals, process, and accountability. So setting your event up for success in the skeleton is going to be set up by their goals, the processes, and the accountability of the team that you have to deliver that success. So let's start with goals. For instance, one of the things that we want to do is you want to make sure that your goals for the event are appropriate. So for instance, if you have 250 potential prospects in a 60-mile radius of where you're trying to do an event, it may not be realistic for you to say, I want to get 100 different organizations or guests in the room, because that would be 50% of the people attending. So insider tip here, you want to really position your event or put the location of your event within 10 miles of where your core prospects or potential clients or current clients are located. We see that generally dramatically increases the number of people that attend. Regarding lack of touch points, the other one I want to talk about. You can't rely on just one touch point. So what do I mean? You need to be hitting people from multiple sources and communication channels. So that means phone calls, emails, mailers, social media, voicemail broadcast, dropping flyers off at a meeting, that sort of thing. That's really what's going to increase the likelihood of the people attending and hearing about your event. So insider quick tip here, phone call conversations though are by far the highest likelihood of someone you talk to on the phone or confirm prior to an event for them to actually attend. And those people actually tend to we've seen evidence that they rate their experience at the event much higher from somebody that you talk to prior to an event. The last point I want to talk about here, centers of influence. You got to look and see who else in your network, in your industry, in your territory would be a credible leader to also potentially provide some speaking, some engagement, some thought at your event. And this is a great way to where, say, you have a bunch of business with an employee benefit plan auditor or an attorney. You can maybe say, hey, I'll send out some invites and get some of my clients there, you get out some of your clients here. And it's a great way to create a great educational atmosphere and environment that will also build some credibility and add some flair to your event. So centers of influence are a great way to make sure that your event is successful. So to wrap up, be sure to check out the rest of the blog in the link below. In fact, there's also an event checklist that I mentioned for a day of event checklist for some of the nitty-gritty, detail-oriented things you want to make sure you're doing for your events. So check that out. So hopefully some of these 5 things or these things that I talked about will help make your next event better. If you are interested and want to bounce an idea off me or have some questions, I'd love to talk to you about some of the events I do and some of the other services that I offer, and I'd be happy to talk to you about how to make your next event successful. Thanks so much from Brent Willey and Fiduciary Education. Let's talk soon.